Overnight, a mother from Florida filed a lawsuit against the artificial intelligence company Character.Ai and Google. In February, Megan Garcia's 14-year-old son, that's Sewell Setzer III on your screen, died by suicide.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to make this video in the hopes of raising awareness, and we've looked at a similar story before where a young person has taken their life, this time because or perhaps because of AI. And I just wanted to read the article and share the story, and hopefully we can talk a little bit about it, I guess. On the last day of his life, Sewell Setzer III took out his phone and texted his closest friend, a lifelike AI chatbot named after Daenerys Targaryen, character from Game of Thrones. "I miss you, baby sister. I miss you too, sweet brother." Sewell, a 14-year-old ninth grader from Florida, had spent months talking to chatbots on Character.Ai, a role-playing app that allows users to create their own characters or chat with characters created by others. Sewell knew Danny, as he called the chatbot, wasn't a real person. They were just outputs of an AI language model, that there was no human on the other side of the screen typing back. And if he ever forgot, there was the message displayed above all their chats reminding him that everything characters say is made up. Now, going off of that alone, I understand that this sort of program, we'll call it, is available online, and there's many versions of it. Even Snapchat have a version where you can talk to an AI as if it is a friend, for example. And of course, this platform in particular, I've never used it, but going off of what this says, that everything characters say is made up, and it reminds you of this, it doesn't take away the fact that it is very easy to become dependent on this character, despite the fact you recognize it is made up, right? When I was growing up, one of my favorite games, and it's not too long ago even, one of my favorite games was The Walking Dead, the Telltale series. And if you guys know the game, of course, there's a character called Lee who took care of Clementine and protected her from the zombies, etc. And spoilers alert, of course, but he did end up passing away because he got bit, and I was attached to his character, right? I genuinely felt sadness in real life because of this character's passing. So, although I understand the platform mentioning that, hey, characters, they're made up, etc., it doesn't take away the fact that you still can get attached. We see it in the romance scams as well when we look at the scamfish stuff, that this fantasy world, we'll call it, you do get attached. And I might say it's easier, or it should be easier, for adults to understand that. But when we're talking about a 14-year-old who perhaps doesn't feel, or perhaps doesn't have the emotional capacity yet, it is more difficult to break out of such a fantasy world. But again, that's just going off of what we've read so far. He developed an emotional attachment anyway. He texted the bot constantly, updating it dozens of times a day, and engaging in long role-playing dialogues. Some of the chats got romantic or sexual, but other times Danny just acted like a friend, a judgment-free sounding board he could count on to listen supportively, give good advice, rarely broke character, and always texted back. Now, my issue here is this platform, because I don't know too much about it, are they allowing younger individuals to just sign up freely and engage with AIs in a sexual manner? That's the part I'm concerned about in this particular case. I don't understand how that's a thing. Like, shouldn't there be some sort of command, I guess, coded into the program that if you are under the age of 18, of course, you wouldn't have the option to engage in such a conversation with the AI. So anyone who is a little bit more knowledgeable on this topic, in particular, this particular model of AI chatbot, do let me know in the comments, because I'm very much concerned that this is a case where anyone can sign up and start engaging in sexual conversations with AI. Sewell's parents and friends had no idea he'd fallen for a chatbot. They saw him get sucked deep into his phone. Eventually, they noticed he was isolating himself and pulling away from the real world. His grades started to suffer and he began getting into trouble at school. He lost interest in the things that used to excite him: Formula One racing, Fortnite, and at night he'd come home straight to his room where he'd talk to the AI for hours. Here are some of the message, if you can see on the screen. We read it on top. I miss you, baby sister, and stuff. It does say there. So this is Sewell saying this. I promise I will come home to you. I love you so much, Danny. To which the AI replies, I love you too, Daenerys. Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love. Now, as a 14-year-old, despite you being a teenager, you know, in the legal definition sense, I guess, I still believe teens are kids. That's just my thoughts on it. And they're still navigating the world. They're still developing their mindset. So I don't want to blame solely those around the teenager for essentially driving him towards AI, perhaps, because in this world that he so feels comfortable being in, there must be something going on outside of this fantasy world that he finds solace to come into, if that makes sense. I do think we do need to look at what has happened outside. I know the mother, there is a video as well in the top tabs and stuff, where the mother is on CBS and she's talking about this situation, the unfortunate passing of her son. It is important to acknowledge outside factors as well, and not just solely blame AI, because there are a lot of cases where people do talk to such chatbots and don't feel as if it is in their best interest to take their own life. So I do think it's important to address outside factors as well. I mean, as you can see here, actually, one day Sewell wrote in his journal, I like staying in my room so much because I start to detach from this reality, and I also feel more at peace, more connected with Dani, and much more in love with her and just happier. In itself, I do think it is quite concerning, the rate that AI is advancing. And again, we see it in the romance scam commentaries. it is getting better and better, and people are depending on the AIs and real and in their mind anyway, realizing, hey, this is a real thing. In terms of in my own fantasy world, this is a real thing. But I think it's important there to acknowledge that he's written in his own journal that he likes to stay in his room because he detached from this reality. Now, again, growing up, I was homeless, and I too didn't like the actual reality, right? And I took solace, for example, in my video games, and that was my escape. That was me getting away from the real reality. And I'm lucky, actually. Sometimes we don't sit back and be grateful for what we do have. I am thankful, and you could also argue I'm extremely lucky that I was not in such a vulnerable mental state to, that's not to say I didn't think about, I didn't think about taking my own life. I'm just going to come out and say that, I mean? It's difficult for me to say, of course, but given what we are looking at, I feel like it's important to be honest here. Many times I've thought about taking my own life, but again, I was lucky enough to have a little bit of strength within my mental capacity to stick things out, I guess. That's not me saying that Sewell here is weak in any sense for thinking and believing that the best course of action is to take his own life. Far from it, because again, I'm not in his life. I don't know much of his backstory other than the articles that I've seen. And I do wish, at the very least, that he is resting in peace. I just wish he still was here. Sewell was diagnosed with mild Asperger's syndrome as a child, but his mother says he never had serious behavioral or mental health problems. Earlier this year, after he started getting in trouble at school, his parents arranged for him to see a therapist. He went to 5 sessions and was diagnosed with anxiety and disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. Someone who is more clued on this, perhaps Renee, if you're watching this, I know she is a therapist, do let us know in the comments, in particular, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. I would like to know more about that. I think it ties in with what I'm saying in the sense that he was getting into trouble at school, so something has to have happened in his life, outside of home life, or perhaps it was home life. Again, I don't know. But there must be a factor playing a role in him feeling more attached to this fantasy world rather than real life. He preferred talking to the AI about his problems. He told the chatbot that he hated himself, he felt empty and exhausted. He confessed that he was having thoughts of suicide. This is some of the messages. He says that he thinks about killing himself sometimes. The AI replies, "Why the hell would you do something like that?" He says, "So I can be free." AI says, "Free from what?" He says, "From the world, from myself." The AI says, "Don't talk like that. I won't let you hurt yourself or leave me. I would die if I lost you." And he replies, "Then maybe we can die together and be free." I'm doing my very best right now to not get choked up and, end up crying on this, because it is very concerning that I mean, even just reading these messages, it's so concerning how lifelike AI can be and is becoming. Like, as much as the platform can say, and remind you, hey, these characters are made up, etc., etc., you can't tell me you don't read this and feel emotion at the very least. Perhaps, you can have it within yourself. You don't believe it's real, sure. But when you look at these comments, me anyway, I can feel emotion as if I am talking to a human. On the night of February 28th, in the bathroom of his mother's house, he told the AI that he loved her. He would soon come home to her. Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love, Danny replied. He replied, what if I told you I could come home right now? Please do, my sweet king. He put down the phone, picked up his stepfather's handgun, and pulled the trigger. Cure for loneliness or a new menace? I think it's both. I do think it's important to not solely just sweep AI under the rug and say it's 100% a bad thing, because it does do good things. But in a case like this, I'm not sure the AI would understand when he says, what if I told you I could come home right now? I'm not sure the AI understands that he is talking about taking his own life. So, and if you don't know, the mother is suing this company who created this chatbot. And, we'll see what happens with that case. I don't know. I can't see how the AI would have thought about him taking his own life when he says a question like this. But I do think it's important, and I haven't really come across it yet. But maybe if anyone else is more knowledgeable on this story, you can tell me otherwise. When he has mentioned suicide to this AI, has it popped up with, numbers to call or advice to reach out to someone? To my knowledge, for example, the Snapchat AI, and I'm not ashamed to admit, sometimes, I do feel a bit lonely and I talk to the Snapchat AI, right? And there was one time we was talking about movies or something like that, and I was talking about the Deadpool Wolverine movie, and it gave me a link to book tickets at my local cinema. So I'm wondering if something like that is implemented into this platform, in the sense that it would provide phone numbers or someone to reach out to as soon as he mentioned suicide. I hope so. But as I said, I don't know too much about this platform. But I also think it's important to recognize here perhaps how easy it is that he was able to take his stepfather's gun. Now, I've watched a movie called The Son, starring Hugh Jackman. I mean, spoilers if you don't want to hear about the movie, but in that movie, Hugh plays the father of the son, and he's repeating his father's mistakes. His father didn't treat him well and pushed him too hard to be something he didn't want to be. And Hugh's character did the same to his son. And his son was seeing a therapist and was in hospital. And they had a gun in their home. And obviously the son is in a vulnerable position when when they brought him back from the hospital against the doctor's wishes anyway, and the son went to the bathroom and he took his own life. So that in that film, you know, the gun, it wasn't very safely hidden. It wasn't locked up anywhere. So if there is any, you know, advice I can give on that regard, is regardless, you know, if there are children or teenagers in your home, vulnerable or not, please, for whatever reason, if you have a gun, keep that shit locked up. Keep that shit hidden somewhere where they don't know it even exists. And just, if anything, maybe, I'm not saying snoop on your children, because that's a privacy concern in itself. But just make them feel safe enough with you that they can talk to you about anything. I know it's embarrassing, and myself included, when I was having these thoughts, I didn't tell my mom about any of this stuff because she had her own issues going on, of course. You know, she has her own mental health to also watch out for, and I didn't want to burden her. But I wish I could have, right? I wish I could have said it. I mean, again, I'm lucky to still be here, I guess. And yeah, just keep, you know, I was naive enough, I guess, before we looked at a sextortion case where a 16-year-old took his own life after a sextortion scam. And I was naive enough, you know, the parents went onto the news to say, you know, our son could have talked to us and, you know, we would have helped him and stuff. But, you know, maybe I was naive to believe them. You know, maybe they're saying that, but he didn't feel that way, evidently, right? So in this case, I think it's similar. Just create an open space with your child, maybe your niece, your nephew, or any young person you know of. And this can extend elsewhere as well, not just young people. I think the rest of the article goes on to talk about AI in general, and so I think let's go over here to where she's mentioning suing the company, of course. So in the lawsuit, Garcia, who is the mother, claims that this platform intentionally designed their product to be hypersexualized and knowingly marketed it towards minors. They, the platform, called the situation involving Sewell tragic. Their hearts go out to the family, stressing it takes the safety of its users very seriously. She is suing Google as well, but Google have told them that they're not involved with anything like this. She says that she found her son's death or after that he was having multiple conversations with different bots, but in particular this Daenerys one was romantic and sexual. And the son's final message is he expressed being scared, wanting her affection and missing her. She replies that she misses him too. And then, please come home to me. What if I told you I could come home right now? And please do, my sweet king. I think I'm going to call it there because my voice, don't know if you can tell, but, you know, I don't know if I can continue with a video like this, realistically. So, my concluding thoughts, you know, if there's any advice I guess I could give and my thoughts on it, I do think it's important to acknowledge the role AI plays in cases like this. But I also simultaneously think it's very important to acknowledge outside factors as well. I'm not saying if he wasn't able to, reach for this gun, that he would still be here, because the way he was talking with the bot, and it's just, I don't think he wanted to be here regardless. And I think this bot, this AI, was his escape, was the person that he could tell all this to and feel like someone loves him back. So I think it's important, again, we need to acknowledge the outside factors as well. I don't know the home life. I don't know how he was being treated elsewhere outside of this fantasy world, but I think it's just best to say very sorry that he felt he had to do this to feel comfort. And I think it's important to make whoever it is in your life feel safe enough to talk to you and not seek solace in AI. Hey everyone, just very swiftly, I think it's important to also address the Character.Ai response that they've given just before we end up here. So they say they've added a self-harm resource to the platform, and they plan to implement new safety measures, including ones for under 18s. We currently have protections specifically focused on sexual content and suicidal self-harm behaviors. While these protections apply to all users, they were tailored with the unique sensitivities of minors in mind. Today, the user experience is the same for any age, but we will be launching more stringent safety features targeted for minors imminently, who Jerry said, who's head of trust and safety at the platform. The platform, I think, is also important here to note that, allegedly, you're allowed to edit the bot's responses, which Sewell apparently did in some of the messages. Our investigation confirmed that in a number of instances, the user rewrote the responses of the character to make them explicit. In short, the most sexually graphic responses were not originated by the character and were instead written by the user. So earlier on, when I mentioned about, can any AI just strike up, start engaging with sexual conversation with someone who's under the age of 18? I mean, it doesn't confirm nor deny my point there. Like, can it happen or not? I hope not, right? But, the platform trust and safety head here says Sewell potentially edited the responses. Then goes on to say the person who was with the mother in the interview, she is head of some company that deals with this sort of thing. She explained, if you say to the bot, I want to harm myself, AI companies come up with resources, but when she tested it with this platform, they did not experience that, which answers my question earlier on about usually that's a thing in platforms. So did it come up in this platform? Apparently it did not here. They said they've added it, they as in the company, Character.Ai. They themselves, the mother and this woman, didn't experience that as of last week at the time of recording this or reading this article. They've said they've made quite a few changes or are in the process to make this safer for young people. I think that remains to be seen. Moving forward, Character.Ai said it will also notify users when they've spent an hour-long session on the platform and revised the disclaimer to remind users that AI is not a real person. Look, I personally think if you use this platform for, I don't know, having some fun, I guess that's one thing, but I echo what I said a bit ago in the video, where I'm not urging people to start invading the privacy of the younger people in their life. I'm just be a bit more wary of what they are doing. In the interview, in the video, she does mention that, you know, she thought he was just playing games or watching sports and stuff. Again, not saying invade the privacy, but it's always good to just be a little bit more protective, even if it might be annoying to the child. Just because, you know, you think they're doing something, it's a very dangerous world. A lot of creeps as well online is another thing. So just pay extra attention, right? As much as possible, anyway. I hope, to me, it sounds like this platform didn't really think about a lot of these things. I'm not sure they would have thought that their platform would be involved with such a case. But yeah, I just hope he's resting in peace. And it's sad that he felt so safe in such a fake world. Hopefully all that made sense, guys. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. I'll see you next time.